Somewhere right now, a player is ignoring a cheap acoustic that outsings guitars 3 times its price. The big lists chase Martin and Taylor while real gold mines sit overlooked. 10 underrated acoustics, from budget heroes to undervalued sleepers quietly climbing in value, counting up to a holy grail bargain that plays like a Martin for a fraction. And an honest check on each, because cheap still hides a few duds. At number 10, the guitar most players grab first when they want a safe bet without the risk. In the 10th place, the Yamaha FG800 stands as the ultimate benchmark for an entry-level dreadnought. For around $230 brand new, the real star of the show is a solid Sitka spruce top. Finding actual solid wood at this price is rare, and it gives this guitar a bright, resonant projection that punches way above its weight. Now, for the honest catch. To keep costs down, Yamaha uses laminated NATO for the back and sides. While it won't mature and open up over the years like solid wood, that laminate makes the body incredibly durable and stable through seasonal humidity changes. As the modern heir to Yamaha's legendary red label FG series from the late 1960s, this instrument inherits a bulletproof build quality. It delivers a balanced, reliable tone, perfect for heavy strumming or everyday practice. It is simply the safest first serious acoustic on the music store wall. Number 9 is the Recording King Dirty 30s. If you want a guitar with real dirt under its fingernails, this is it. It sits in the $300 to $450 range, offering a completely different vibe than the clean modern acoustics flooding the market. Recording King modeled this slope-shoulder beauty after the old department store mail-order instruments of the Dust Bowl era. Under the hood, you get a solid Sitka spruce top with proprietary cross-lap X bracing. This combination creates a punchy, mid-range growl with a dry pre-war voice that folk, country blues, and old-time fingerpickers absolutely love. But here is the honest compromise. To hit this price point, the back and sides are made from basic laminated whitewood, and the finish is a very plain, no-frills matte. It looks a bit raw and lacks flashy binding. Recording King put all the money into the soundboard and the classic 12-fret neck joint, rather than cosmetic upgrades. It is a pure, unpretentious workhorse that delivers authentic vintage character on a modern budget. 8th place is Sigma, a brand that brings serious pedigree to the budget hunt. Launched by Martin in 1970 as their official import line, Sigma guitars like the DR Dreadnoughts and 000 models directly echo classic Martin shapes, bracing, and tone without the premium price tag. If you find a good one, especially from the late 1970s or early 1980s, Japanese production run, you get a guitar with incredible punch and resonance. These early Japanese instruments have actually become quite collectible, with models like the DR-41 rising in value on the used market. But here is the honest catch. You have to do your homework before buying. Not all Sigmas are created equal. Early 1970s models and later South Korean imports from the mid-1980s often featured all laminate construction. If you want that true solid wood resonance, you need to look closely at the wood grain or find the explicit solid top badge on the headstock. Check the internal paper label too. The vintage Japanese models will proudly state they were produced and distributed by C.F. Martin. Get the right era, and you have an absolute powerhouse of a guitar for a fraction of the cost. Number 7 on our list is the Alvarez Artist series, a practical workhorse that gives you professional-grade tone and consistency without emptying your wallet. For about $350, these guitars punch far above their weight class. The magic starts with a solid Sitka spruce top paired with forward-shifted scalloped X bracing. This design moves the acoustic center of the top wood, giving you a massive boost in volume and a warm, clear bass response that most budget guitars struggle to produce. It explains why legendary players like Johnny Cash, Carlos Santana, and David Crosby associated themselves with the Alvarez name over the decades. They knew these builds project beautifully. It is a highly reliable instrument built for the stage or the couch. But here is the honest catch you need to watch out for when scanning the guitar wall. Alvarez also makes an entry-level line called the Regent series. Those cheaper models step down to all laminate tops, which sound thin and stiff compared to their solid top siblings. If you want that rich, maturing tone that gets better with age, pass on the Regent models and make sure you look for the artist badge. It is a small step up in price for a massive leap in musical value. Number 6 on our list is Larrivee, a legendary Canadian brand that shifts us into true all-solid, hand-built territory. Founded by Jean Larrivee, this builder is frequently overlooked by mainstream shoppers chasing flashier headstock logos, but their catalog is an absolute gold mine. Here is the secret. Every single guitar Larrivee makes, from their entry models to their customs, features all-solid wood construction. You get 0 laminates, 0 veneers, and 0 compromises on materials. Their iconic OM-03 series features a premium solid Sitka spruce top paired with solid mahogany or rosewood back and sides. Larrivee is renowned for its proprietary symmetrical bracing system. Unlike the traditional offset X-brace, this layout balances the top perfectly, giving the guitar a remarkably clean, articulate, and recording-friendly voice where every string rings with equal clarity. It is a dream for fingerpickers and singer-songwriters alike. But here is the honest catch. Larrivee maintains an incredibly quiet marketing presence, meaning you will rarely find them hanging on budget store walls. To score one of these sleepers, you have to hunt the second-hand market. But when you track down a used OM-03, you are buying a boutique, lifetime instrument for the price of a standard factory import. It is high-end craftsmanship under an understated name. Number 5 on our list is the Blueridge BR-160, a guitar built for players who want that legendary pre-war Martin flavor without the vintage price tag. For about $700 to $900 on the second-hand market, this herringbone D28 style dreadnought gives you a solid Sitka spruce top paired with solid East Indian rosewood back and sides. Under the hood, Blueridge uses hand-carved, forward-shifted scalloped X-bracing to mimic the rich, boomy projection of highly coveted pre-war instruments. The build features a slim, fast mahogany neck, a rosewood fingerboard, and a genuine bone nut and saddle that transfers string energy beautifully. If you love that traditional bass-heavy bluegrass rumble, this is a massive tone-first alternative that punches far above its weight class. But here is the honest catch you need to keep in mind. Blueridge is known for some unit-to-unit variation. While a great one will easily stand toe-to-toe with guitars costing 3 times as much, some individual builds can feel a bit stiff or run a little heavy on the polyurethane finish. This is not an instrument you want to buy sight unseen on the internet. You want to walk into a local shop, play the specific guitar yourself, and let your ears make the final call. Number 4 on our list is the Guild Westerly Era. If you want genuine American heritage without paying the eye-watering premiums of other historic brands, this is your ticket. Between 1967 and 2001, Guild produced instruments out of their Westerly, Rhode Island factory that are absolute legendary workhorses. These guitars are famous for a big, beautifully balanced, room-filling tone that possesses a deep, booming bass and clean, ringing trebles. They were built like absolute tanks, meaning they project with massive authority and can easily stand shoulder to shoulder with vintage Martins and Gibsons costing 3 times as much. The used market is slowly starting to recognize this, leading to a quiet, steady appreciation in their vintage value, but they still remain one of the best high-end bargains in the guitar world. However, here is the honest catch you need to keep in mind. Because these instruments are decades old, you must inspect them with a critical eye before buying. Pay close attention to the neck angle. Guilds of this era are notorious for eventually needing a neck reset, a complex repair that can easily run you several $100s and completely wipe out your budget savings. Scan the top and sides carefully for center seam splits or historic crack repairs, and check that the bridge is sitting perfectly flush against the soundboard. If you find one with a clean bill of health, you are getting an heirloom quality, American-made powerhouse for a song. Coming to the top three, the Eastman E-Series starts to feel like a premium, high-end instrument while still operating inside a strictly value-first mindset. At around $700 to $1,200, these hand-built, all-solid guitars step into custom shop territory without the traditional boutique price tag. The key to their magic lies in how they are produced. Eastman operates an actual traditional workshop where craftsmen hand-carve the bracing and voice every single individual soundboard. Many of these models are voiced in ways that appeal directly to players chasing the dry, vintage woody bark of a Gibson J45, or the rich, powerful bass response of a classic Martin Dreadnought. They put the construction budget where it matters most, using a true bone nut and saddle that add massive player-ready value right out of the case. Musicians and dealers alike respect this series because the instruments consistently deliver a level of acoustic response that outperforms their sticker price. But here is the honest cosmetic compromise you have to accept: the finish. Eastman applies an exceptionally thin nitrocellulose lacquer to these bodies. While this thin coat is fantastic for the tone, allowing the soundboard to vibrate and mature naturally over time, it also marks and scratches if you so much as bump a mic stand. These guitars can show play wear quickly, meaning they often photograph much rougher than they actually play. If you do not mind a few minor surface marks and dings, you are getting a professional-grade, heirloom-quality powerhouse for a fraction of the cost. In second place, the Seagull S6 might be the most complete people-first success story in the entire acoustic world. For around $535 brand new, this Canadian-made workhorse completely ignores the standard corporate formula. Instead of using the generic spruce tops found on every other budget wall, the S6 features a pressure-tested solid cedar top. This choice gives the guitar a warm, responsive, and sweet voice right out of the box, offering a complex character that usually costs thousands of dollars to obtain. That cedar soundboard is paired with local wild cherry laminate for the back and sides, creating a tone that lands perfectly between the dry punch of mahogany and the bright clarity of maple. Handcrafted in Quebec under the Godin family, the build quality and attention to detail rival high-end boutique brands. But here is the honest catch: it has a highly unusual aesthetic that throws some buyers off. The offset, tapered headstock looks undeniably strange to traditionalists, even though that narrow design is actually engineered to pull the strings perfectly straight through the nut, to ensure rock-solid tuning stability. There is also the neck profile to consider. With a roomy 1.8-inch nut width, the string spacing is wide and incredibly comfortable for fingerstyle players, but those with smaller hands might find it a bit of a stretch during long sessions. If you can look past the quirky headstock and the wider nut, you are left with a beautifully resonant North American-built powerhouse. It is a guitar that many players buy as a temporary stepping stone, only to realize they never need to upgrade again. And finally, in first place is the vintage Alvarez-Yairi. Specifically, we are looking at the 1970s and the 1980s models hand-built in Kani, Japan. Under the guidance of master luthier Kazuo Yairi, these instruments featured solid spruce or cedar tops and hand-carved bracing, giving them a warm, projection-rich voice that easily rivals vintage Martins. Legendary musicians like Paul McCartney, Johnny Cash, and the members of Crosby, Stills, and Nash fell in love with these builds for their balance and stage presence. In fact, David Crosby famously noted that his mid-90s Yairi was better than any Gibson he had ever found, costing only a fraction of the price. Because Yairi air-dried his tone woods for years before building, these instruments have opened up beautifully, delivering a full woody resonance that only comes with aged timber. They are the absolute strongest sleeper story on the second-hand market today, offering master-built Japanese craftsmanship for less than the price of a standard modern factory import. But here is the honest catch when hunting down one of these vintage gold mines. You must look closely at the label. It has to explicitly say Yairi. Standard Alvarez models from the same era are decent guitars, but they do not feature the same handmade Japanese construction. You want to inspect the inner neck block for the distinctive 4-digit Emperor dating stamp to confirm the build year, and carefully check the neck heel for any separation. Since these guitars are decades old, a bad neck angle can mean an expensive reset. So make sure the action is comfortable and the bridge is secure. Finding one of these instruments illustrates a clear lesson for any player. When you look past the headstock logo and focus on solid top construction, quality bracing, and a clean setup, you can find world-class tone without paying a fortune. Which of these guitars have you owned, and what is your best cheap acoustic guitar score? Subscribe for more expert guides on under-the-radar gear. Across these 7 overlooked acoustics, one truth remains. Great tone doesn't care about the name on the headstock. When you prioritize solid tops, real build quality, and honest setups over famous logos, you find the real gold mines. Which of these have you owned, and what's your ultimate cheap guitar score? Let me know below. Subscribe for more gear guides.